What is up, fight readers? This is Betsy Ross. Long time no see. It has been quite an interesting few months here in 2021. And as we all know, every day is a fight. Every day we struggle with whatever demons or whatever issues that we have in our lives. But, we should always be taking initiative in really stepping out of our comfort zone and helping those around us. Because as we all know and have seen across social media, we're all hurting to some degree. We've all endured something negative, and unfortunately life is always going. Life is going to keep on, and it really doesn't hurt to lend a helping hand, to give that listening ear that everyone's always looking for, especially with today. There seems to be a lot of political statements, political agendas, and we're getting more and more split up. And especially in the veteran community, we like to pick each other apart. We like to really differentiate ourselves. And as much as comparing our pain and comparing our history and comparing our war stories, or who had it worse, who has more scars mentally, emotionally, physically, and it's like a lot of those things really separate us. And then a lot of veterans don't feel the need to open up because, I didn't lose a limb, so I'm not as cool as those other veterans, or at the VFW, or I don't belong anywhere, so I'm not going to talk to anybody. And that's not always the case. And I guess to some that's a little dramatic, but I have seen it and I have experienced it myself, because I was fortunate to not have to see war physically, like literally. But it's like I had a lot of issues and I was afraid to open up. I was afraid to, I guess it was really fear. It was more of the anxiety of that discriminatory, especially being a female, and I wasn't infantry, therefore, I'm just a pogue and this and that, and it's like, it's cool story, bro, but I still had some issues. I still saw things. I still wanted to belong, and I couldn't belong anywhere. And especially as I got out of the military, it was very hard to find fellow veterans, because everyone wants to know your story. Everyone always wants to know your story. So if you have any, Go Army stickers or Marine stickers or tattoos or anything that even signifies military anything, they always like, did you serve? And then the door opens, and then they want to know what your story is, and then it's like, the floodgates sometimes just open up, and oftentimes we don't even want to talk about it. At least I didn't, not for the longest time. I did for a while, because it was like a part of me didn't want to let go. I still wanted to be a part of the military. And then it was more of, I just one day just woke up and I was like, I don't want to talk about it anymore. It felt weird that certain veterans, I couldn't read where if they'd be open to it, because a lot of them were like, you were too patriotic, you were too gung-ho, or, they never say go, they say never to go full hole, they say to never be that soldier. I was. And as I was a military brat, I was very gung-ho. I was very want to be, straight away. But I really lost it, because there was a lot of bad leadership that I really tried to, I basically broke my back for, and I lost in the end. And then I got kicked and got booted out. So it was definitely hard. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You got flowers.
I do. Thank you. And then here on the home front, my son likes to pick me flowers.
That's red on it.
It's very pretty. Thank you. And then there's the fight series, trying to get the word out and help fellow veterans. And every day really is a fight. Here I've made it home, and I have grown a family and been really trying to survive. And it still can be difficult to reach out to people, and I'm hoping that the fight series is still reaching out to people that need to be heard, because as I was kind of just venting, a while ago, everyone has a story. Like, everyone has their own reasons they do want to talk about it, they don't want to talk about it. There's parts of the military that they miss, that they probably are glad to be rid of. And, it's just, everyone has a personality. Of course, it's not for everybody. The military's definitely for unique personalities, unique people. And, a lot of people don't like to talk about mental health. A lot of people don't like to talk about the emotional side of wearing the uniform, which is good and all, because don't get me wrong, when you're downrange, last thing you need is that emotional pressure. But here on the outside, in the veteran world, in the veteran community, when you take off that uniform and you go home, it's like the whole world just changes, because it's like the significance of the uniform almost seem bittersweet for some. For some, of course, you don't do anything negative. You don't burn it. You don't tatter it. You don't wear it just because you don't, just along those lines. And yet, a lot of people, I've known some people who just threw their uniforms out. Like, there was no significance in it. They wanted to forget it all. They wanted to cut that cord immediately. They got their DD-214, and everything that even signified, reminded them of serving was gone. And, for such a dynamic spectrum of veterans, it really is hard to find help. It's hard to find that one program that's going to fit everybody. And there's no such thing, at least in my opinion. And it's very hard to be a voice for people who don't want to talk about anything. Suicide, depression, anxiety, PTSD, TBI. And, my husband has PTSD, and he's pretty sure he has TBI as well. He just doesn't have that official diagnosis. But he did also injure his back. He's got bulging discs. He's got arthritis in his back, possibly even his knees. And I've seen him struggle. I have seen how, even outside looking in, even just being the spouse, it can be difficult. But because I was also in the military, I still have an understanding of what is going on, as far as knowing enough to not push those boundaries. And unfortunately, not all family members, not all spouses have that understanding. And that is one reason why the Fight series was written, to help give that mental and emotional aspect of, sometimes being quiet. If they're being quiet, if they're saying certain things, sometimes the mind is doing or saying things that you're not hearing. And unfortunately, some individuals don't like voicing those thoughts. They don't like coming across as weird or eccentric or different. I've always hated that. You're different now. We're always growing up. We're always moving on. People are always changing to some degree, but telling a veteran they're different if they haven't come home in so long, if you've read the Fight series, you know exactly kind of what I'm talking about. Some of the characters kind of pick up on those, like, what do you mean different? And it actually pushes them away. They want to feel normal. They want to feel like they belong in their own family again, or their old friends that they haven't seen in a while, or if they move back home, they want to rekindle what kind of they grew up with. And when people constantly remind them every day that they're different, that doesn't always go well. So if you haven't looked into the Fight series, I would definitely recommend it, and I could always use any feedback. I've started Fight 4 to Fight On, but it's hard to really gauge where to take my stories because I need that feedback. Right now, Fight 1, 2, and 3 are available on Amazon, and I haven't really been able to do many interviews yet because of personal life taking over everything. But Fight has so much potential to reach people, whether they've served or not, and it's really important, I think, that veterans especially kind of get reminded of why we looked out for one another, why it was so important to look after our own. Because let's face it, not everyone has good experiences with the VA. Everyone pushes, when you're in, they're pushing like, hey, go to the VA for this. You can get education. You can get all these benefits and this and that. But there's a lot of loopholes. There's a lot of fine print in that. Like families can't get TRICARE benefits when you get out unless you're 100%. At least that's the last thing I've heard. So unless your veteran is 100% disabled to whatever degree, but 100%, your family doesn't get benefits. So it's like just little things like that when I constantly hear, well, like, oh, this and that. And it's like, well, there's a lot of fine print. So it's like just because you hear veteran doesn't mean they get paid, doesn't mean they're disabled, doesn't mean, like, I was technically chaptered out due to medical reasons, but I was not medically discharged. So the little code they gave me was medical related, but I have no benefits. I have nothing. I wasn't given anything. I was pushed out. So it was like, I don't really have a cool story. I don't have anything, but I have seen how the military has used and abused good soldiers, good leaders. And I've seen and experienced how bad leadership really just ruined that good potential, leadership that was either in soldiers or, the ones that were really going places and were going to go places in the military and out. And all of a sudden, because of one circumstance or one individual that was in a high-ranking position came up to them and basically ruined their life. It's so heartbreaking to watch. And then, of course, there's the personal side where everyone's being cheated on and everyone's just getting drunk and doing stupid things and making bad choices. And unfortunately, that is the downside to the military. And unfortunately, regardless if it's good or bad, those experiences get carried out into the real world when we take off that uniform. So that is the reason why the fight mission was so important, why I'm constantly trying to find ways to get the word out, because everyone has a story. Not everyone was a pogue, not everyone was infantry, not everyone has cool badass stories like some Navy SEAL or the Rangers or the Marines. And I love communicating with the veteran community, especially across the world, because I think that is amazing. The Fight series has reached people in Australia and India and the UK, and more so than America. Pity. But I really laugh at that, really. That veterans and supporters of American military have read Fight more than Americans have. And I think that is heartbreaking, considering, the American, it was written from the American perspective, and which is still kind of neat because they say, even though the terminology is different, there's so much that can be related. And again, even if you haven't served, you can still relate to the emotions and the thought patterns and just having those relationships, whether it's family, friends, just trying to rekindle yourself after some sort of traumatic issue or circumstance that you endured. There's just so much that can be related, and I think that's so cool that if we really just take off, I don't even know what to call it anymore, these political agendas, these name tags, these, whatever. If we really just take all the gloves off and everything, stop hurting and bashing each other and just really just connect with people, we can actually overcome more than what anyone can say. The media, politicians, different groups. It's really heartbreaking that we have to split up each other into different groups just to be accepted. And that's one reason why Fight really pushes boundaries. No one wants to talk about mental health, especially in the veteran community. And Fight has had a lot of negative things said about it. Like, why talk about it in this way? Why bring it up? Why make the military look bad? Why make veterans look bad? You know, they were badasses over there. They did this and that. They did the unthinkable. And it's like, exactly. And people should not have to lose families and their homes and this and that, and no one know why. What drives me insane is when people have the audacity to ask, why are 22 plus veterans committing suicide every day? Really? Why? You really want to know why? Because Fight has been trying to push that boundary, and I get blocked on social media. I get the social media platforms to hide my statuses and my accounts, and it's kind of heartbreaking because people want to ask why, and it's like, if you read Fight, you probably have an idea why. You would know why. And you know, that's sort of the Fight mission, even though Fight's really not a non-profit organization. It's nothing like that, but it is a mission, kind of a mission statement, but it's really a book series. I know a lot of people who would complain that they won't read it because it's only 100 pages. Each book is under 100 pages. But if you read all of them together, it could be over 300 pages. At least at this point, until 5-4 comes out. But they're short because they are emotional. Like, they are intense in that way. They're not Hollywood dramatic theatrical type explosions, but if you read them, I mean, even read the reviews, you would get an idea from the reviews. That's one reason I'm always asking for reviews and that feedback, because Fight is unique. It's fiction, but it's unique. It's uniquely written to help people not feel alone in their own darkness or their emotions or their thoughts, especially for veterans. But if you are family members of a veteran who just came home, or you're not sure what's going on, not saying that every veteran thinks of suicide, but it's just the idea that, you know, certain things said or just coming home really makes them feel distant. Even though they're in a crowded room, they feel alone, kind of thing. And, you know, it's always those small things. And I think it is the small things that really matter to everybody. Even if they're the macho, cool, badass individuals, there's always those little things. It's always the little things. And so, if you can look into the Fight series, leave a review, share it with friends, families. I've even had people leave it in libraries. And even though there is language used in there, it's definitely not a kid's book, but it definitely connects people on numerous levels. And if you read reviews, that is exactly what is said. And that is kind of the Fight mission. That is what Fight is. And unfortunately, me saying things, me making videos, me making posts doesn't really mean anything. That's why I'm counting on my readers, my followers, to really help me make a stand, because me just saying about, you know, talking about my books doesn't really mean anything. And unfortunately, I don't have a cool story to tell as far as cool experiences in the military. I met some really cool people. There were some amazing leaders and very cool people from around the world that I got to meet, and I got to experience cool things that I definitely wouldn't be able to experience on the civilian side. But now I've lost purpose, and now I'm just an author, lost in the world, trying to find a purpose, I guess, still, because I don't like the idea of the military just being where I just basically got chaptered out. I was a nobody. I didn't like that. But I really was gung-ho about the military. And I'm still passionate about it. I'm still passionate about veterans. So even though mental health is definitely not veteran exclusive, I definitely focus on the veterans. Because I know many that have been homeless. I know many that have gone through drugs, abuse to drugs, and you can see a little bit of all the stereotypes and everything within the Fight series, whether it's drug abuse, drinking. I mean, if you pick up the book, you're going to almost instantly pick up on those stereotypes, those stigmas, those just negative feelings, because it's all described from an emotional, mental perspective. If it's in italics, you're in that character's mind. If you are in a broad section where everything's italics, you're in a flashback. So it's like things are constantly moving in that character's heads, and unfortunately it does jump around as far as the character's perspective, but I did that on purpose so it's more personal. So when the reader is reading it, you're in that character's mind. You're in their perspective. Granted, every character has their own personality, so you might pick up on how it's different, read differently, obviously. But that's what makes it real. And unfortunately, that's just my opinion. That was just my hope and how I wrote it. So unless you pick up the book, check it out. The first book is 97 pages. Read it and tell me what you think. Let others know what you think. Because Fight is not your typical book. It's not a self-help book, unfortunately. It's not... I guess to some degree, some people might consider it as entertainment. But at the same time, it's really just veterans awareness, mental health awareness, from a veteran's perspective, though. You're going to see some signs of depression, the anxiety, suicidal tendencies. So, of course, if any of you are in any way triggered by any of those things, if you do have PTSD or any type of those flashbacks that just randomly appear, I would be cautious in reading Fight. I do have some readers who can only read one page at a time in a 24-hour period, and there's no shame in that. There is no shame in being able to read a book, still face your fears, still face those emotions, and still get through it. Because you could surprise yourself. You can find maybe a new side of yourself you didn't realize, because you're going to feel something, you're going to remember something, you're going to realize that it could push you to maybe talk to somebody. You never know. But at the same time, being cautious, there's no shame in that, because we don't want to lose any more of our fellow veterans. We need each other. We really need to stick together. And Fight is not out to discriminate. It is not to make fun of anybody, not the military. It's not to pick apart any individual, branch, anything. It is to help one another, help us reconnect families, friends, fellow veterans, and just remind each other of ourselves, who we were. Because I know a lot of people miss that camaraderie. We miss that who we used to be kind of thing, because now we've lost purpose, we've lost the uniform, so what now kind of thing. Well, if you read Fight, maybe you'll spark a new mission of your own, whether it's to help fellow veterans, whether it's to rekindle a lost friendship that you had in the military but you lost connection. Check out Fight and let me know. And as always, count 3 good things that happened today. And until next time, readers, have a blessed day.